Graphing inequalities. So how do I graph inequalities? Well, this is really pretty easy. So here we have two different inequalities, and I've already graphed them. The first one says x is less than or equal to 4. Well, what we're doing is we're graphing all the possible solutions to this inequality, all the numbers that are less than or equal to 4. Well, that would include the number 4. That's why that's colored in. And it would include all the numbers on this side of the number line to the left of 4. This one is very similar. It says x is less than 4. Now you'll notice the circle is not colored in. It's not closed. It's an open circle. That's because we are not including 4 as part of our solution set, because 4 is not less than 4. But all the numbers to the left of 4 are. And that would include 3, 2, 1, negative 15, negative 200. It would even include all the numbers between here and here. That would be 3.9, 3.8. So just remember, if you're including the number in your solution, you're going to use a closed circle. You're going to color it in. If the number is not part of the solution, you're going to use an open circle. Oh, and another thing is another helpful tip when you're graphing. When you have the x on the left side of the inequality, the arrow in the graph is going to point the same way as the arrow in the inequality. And that's only when the x is on the left-hand side of the equation, though. Okay, so here we have 3 graphs, and we're going to try and determine what the inequality is based on the graph. Well, on all 3, I'm going to start with my x. The first 2 graphs are pointing to the right, so I'm going to have the arrow in my inequality also pointing to the right. The last one points to the left. The first number is an open 2. It's open on negative 2. Now remember, if it's open, it's going to be one of these 2 symbols. On the next one, it's closed, so it's going to be one of these 2 symbols. X is greater than or equal to 1. And on the last one, it's an open circle. So let's just double check and see if we got these right. The first one is x greater than negative 2. X is greater than or equal to 1. And x is less than 0. All right, let's do a few more of these. So if you were graphing x is greater than 3, all the numbers that are greater than 3, well, we would start with an open circle, because we're not including 3 as part of our answer, as part of the solution set, but all of these numbers to the right of 3 would be possible solutions. The next one, x is less than or equal to negative 1. Now in this one, we are including negative 1 as part of the solution set, so I'm going to color that in. These are all the possible solutions, and you'll notice in the first graph, the arrow pointed the same way as the arrow in the inequality. Same here. We're going to point it towards the left. This next one is also going to point towards the left. So x is less than negative 2. What would be all the possible solutions? All the numbers that are less than negative 2. Well, here's negative 2. Would we include negative 2 as a possible answer? No. But all these numbers to the left of negative 2 would be part of the solution set. In our last example, x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Now, am I going to include negative 2 as a possible answer? Yes, because negative 2 is equal to negative 2. And these would be all the numbers that would be greater than negative 2. And again, the arrow in the graph is pointing the same way as the arrow in the inequality. Okay, here's a couple more. We're going to graph a is less than negative 1. A is less than negative 1. So here's negative 1. What are all the numbers that are less than negative 1? Right here. Every number to the left of negative 1. And we wouldn't include negative 1. Now we're going to identify 2 possible solutions. You can pick any 2 points you want. I'm going to say negative 2 would be a possible solution. Negative 9 would be a possible solution. And the next one, m is greater than negative 4. M is greater than negative 4. Are we going to include negative 4 in our solution set? No. But all those numbers are greater than negative 4. And I'm going to pick any two. I'm going to pick negative 1 and 0. Both those numbers are greater than negative 4. All right, let's graph x is greater than or equal to 2. X is greater than or equal to 2. We're going to include 2 as a possible solution. And all of these numbers are greater than or equal to negative 2. And again, the arrow is pointing the same way as the arrow in the inequality. And two possible solutions would be 5 and 8. Okay, let's move on, because I can't quite see that question. All right, what's being graphed here? So this is easy. What inequality is represented in the following graphs? Well, I'm going to start with all my arrows. This one's pointing to the right. That one's pointing to the left. That's pointing towards the right, towards the right, towards the right. This one is an open circle. This one's closed, so that would be or equal to. This one's closed. That would be equal to. This is open, so that's fine. And the last one is closed, so that would be greater than or equal to. And then what number is circled? In the first one it was 16. In this next one it was negative 2. Next it was 44. This would be negative 29. And last but not least would be negative 220. So those are the inequalities that are represented in the graphs. All right, let's just do a couple of quick questions. Which graph represents the inequality x is greater than 8? Well, if you look at our choices, we can eliminate C right away because the arrow is pointing towards the right, so it can't be choice C. And the only one that has 8 circled is choice A. And that is your answer. X is greater than 8. And 8 is not part of the solution set, so it's not colored in. Let's try another one. Which one of these is showing x is greater than or equal to negative 2? Well, the graph should be pointing towards the right, and they're all pointing towards the right. It should be starting at negative 2, so it could be choice A. Cannot be B. Can't be D. So it's one of these two. Well, it's greater than or equal to. That means it needs to be colored in, or a closed circle means it's including the number negative 2, so it would be choice C. Which graph represents the inequality x is less than or equal to negative 1? Well, the graph needs to be pointing to the left, so we can eliminate B and C. It should include the number negative 1, so that leaves out choice A. That would be D. Let's do two more. Which inequality does the number line show? All numbers less than negative 2? All numbers, well, you know what, I think the easiest way to do this, let's represent that with an inequality. So the arrow is pointing that way. It's negative 2. All numbers less than negative 2. Well, it's not choice A. All numbers greater than negative 2. And let's just double check C. All numbers greater than or equal to negative 2. That would be choice B. One last question. Which inequality does the number line show? Well, that would be x greater than or equal to negative 2, because it's colored in. So all numbers less than negative 2? No. All numbers greater than or equal to negative 2? Yes. All numbers less than or equal to negative 2? No. So that is how you graph inequalities.